Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this extra audit committee meeting. I would like to start with any apologies for absence, or are we on a full house? Full house, thank you very much. So we'll move to item 2 then, to approve as an accurate record the minutes of the meeting held on the 27th of June. Have we got any movers or seconders for that? Everyone
Just
happy?
move it.
Moved by
Yeah.
Councillor Sandra Barnes. Thank you. Councillor, seconded by Councillor Paul Hughes. All those happy with them then? Yeah. Thank you. We'll move then to item 3. Any declarations of interest from members on the items being discussed this evening? No. Thank you very much. So we'll move to item 4, the internal audit progress report and business continuity and emergency planning internal audit report. I believe we've got representatives from BDO as well, and I'll let them introduce themselves if that's okay. Should we go over to them first? So do you want to do a bit of an outline first? Yeah. Thank you.
Hi everyone, so I'm Gurpreet Dule, I'm a director from BDO and I lead the internal audit service, and my colleague here, Max Armstrong, manages the service and the day-to-day delivery. So we've got a couple of documents for you. One's our progress report, which includes one of our reports that's finalised around business continuity. So Max will talk through that. And we also have our draft Head of Internal Audit opinion, which I'll talk about, which is the paper that comes after that. So other than that, I'll hand over to Max for now, who'll talk through progress in the year, the individual report I mentioned, the business continuity planning. Maybe we'll pause at that point if there's any questions, and then I'll pick up the draft Head of Internal Audit opinion after that matter.
Thank you very much. So I'll start on page 12, which provides a table of our work for 2022-23. So you'll see from the table that the vast majority of reviews have been completed, and the opinions on control effectiveness and design are also shown on that table. So there's a few reviews remaining, partly due to sort of absences and availability amongst staff, but also due to ongoing investigations being undertaken by the council. So these obviously be completed in due course and presented to later committees. But you can see work has started on these reviews and it's ongoing. So on to the following page and the start of the 23-24 work. So we've made good progress this year around scoping the reviews. So terms of reference has been developed and we've been working with management to get those reviews dates in line. So you can see in the second column the dates we'll aim to bring these to yourselves at the audit committee as final. But we've actually started two reviews already. So one on project and programme management, and the other review on council tax and NDR. So moving on to the following page and the business continuity and emergency planning report, which is the one that's been finalised for this committee. So starting on page 14 of your packs, you've got the summary of that report, but also you've got a full report from page 25 of your packs. So for this report, we've provided moderate assurance for the control design and limited assurance for the control effectiveness. But it's quite important to note on this review that it was taken at a snapshot in time when we did our work between January and April. So since then, the council have been working on updating a lot of its business continuity plans, working with service areas to get those implemented and start training on them. So actually we've noted it in our conclusion within the executive summary actually, although at this point in time we've given it a limited assurance on the effectiveness, there is work ongoing to improve those controls. So the scope of this review broadly looked at the business continuity planning and the emergency planning framework and policies in place, how they're then implemented across different services in the council, and training, what sort of training is in place to ensure staff are aware of what to do in the event of service disruption. It also looked at areas such as around where there has been incidents, what arrangements have been taken by the council to look at those and develop some lessons learned. So as I say, the findings were around a lack of plans or up-to-date plans in place across different service areas. So a few of them were sort of outdated, I think about 3 or 4 years old, and weren't necessarily relevant to the current arrangements across the council. But as I say, a lot of work's been ongoing since to update those. Similarly, with the corporate business planning policy, it was outdated, and there was in some parts there was a lack of alignment with other sort of key policies around emergency planning. And then finally, of the significant findings, there was a lack of testing and ongoing testing to confirm that actually the business continuity plans in place were appropriate, were effective, and that work ongoing. But again, as I say, once these new service plans have been rolled out, heads of service have been tasked with ensuring that staff are trained on them and that work's all done. So again, as I say, whilst it is where it is at the moment, hopefully, if we were to look at it again this time next year, there will be a clear improvement in that opinion. And then finally, with the progress report, that we've provided a sector update, which provides some interesting articles for the committee, and I'll allow you to sort of read them at your own leisure. But at this point, I'll pause and take any questions.
Okay, members, are there any questions on this item? Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. This is not so much a question for you, but perhaps a question more for the officers. Under the various areas concerned listed on pages 15 to 17, there are management responses which have target dates. And the first one I notice is which relates to the BIAs being out of date and the business continuity plans and the service ones. Service managers were given a deadline of the 30th of June and the overall target date is the 31st of July. So have those been met or will be met?
So in terms of the first date, the end of June, that was the date by which all departmental managers had to make sure that their updated business continuity plans were submitted to their head of service. So they have been received as far as I'm aware. There is a date that has been booked in. It was originally booked in July, but has had to be moved back because various people are on leave. So there is a corporate management team meeting on the 30th of August where all the managers are bringing their business plans together to identify if there's any overlaps or issues that have cropped up when they've looked at those individual service plans, to identify those with a view that they will be signed off on that date. Unfortunately, it has shifted back from the end of July because of leave and so forth, but certainly we had we had 2 lots of business continuity training. One was in November, the second lot was in May, and the May one was a workshop where we all sort of sat down in one room and spent the day going through our service plans, business continuity plans and updating them based across various risks and potential impacts of emergency incidents. So as Max has identified, there has been a lot of work that's been undertaken since the date of the audit, and so far we're on target, apart from that date that unfortunately due to leave has had to be pushed back. So I'm pleased with where things are heading now.
Thank you. And just one quick follow-up. The various other management responses will have target dates to the 31st of December this year. Are they likely to be met?
Yes, there should be in terms of finalising these. Once we've completed the business continuity plan process, it was already in the service plan to look at the overarching emergency plan. So once we've updated the kind of groundworks, we can then look at the overarching document and make sure that it's all tied up. We're hopeful that will be completed as well for December, but it may take a little longer for the overarching emergency plan review.
Are there any other questions or comments from members on this particular item? Councillor Greensmith?
Yeah, I think there might be a typo on page... I can't find it now. On page 7, 1.1, the internal audit plans for 2022-2022.
Well spotted. Is there anything else, Councillor Green?
Not on the typo situation, no. I just thought I'd just raise that because, as I said, I think it's a typo, so it just needs correcting.
Yeah, that'll be corrected. Anything else before we move on, members? Okay. I'm happy then from the chair to move the recommendations, that 1 and 2. Have I got a seconder for that? Yep, Councillor Greensmith. All those in favour? Thank you. So we'll now move on to item 5, and that's the internal audit draft annual report. Did speakers from BDO, did you want to say anything on this point yet?
So our annual report is an important report that is part of our responsibility to deliver each year. We have said that this is draft. We would, in a normal position, be issuing a final at this point, but I'll explain some of the elements around that. For those, if you are less familiar, so see there's some new individuals on the committee. For those who are less familiar, when we finish all of our work for the year, we issue an opinion to say, when we assess all of the governance, risk and control arrangements that we've assessed during the year, plus from other sources of information, what's our overall opinion about how strong that all is effectively what this document does. And we can give 1 of 4 opinions. So substantial is the highest, where we're likely to be finding very little at all. Moderate is the next opinion, which is the most common one that we give to all organisations, local authority, and we work with a number of NHS clients as well. Limited is the next opinion, and no assurance. So our draft opinion at this stage is limited. You'll see we've done a number of reviews during the year, as noted, and there's a summary of those in the kind of more coloured tables that follow on page 55 of your packs for each of those reviews. Now, actually, the individual opinions are relatively positive. There's a lot of moderates and above in there, and we have the 1 limited, which Max has just presented. But there are 2 reports outstanding, which this committee will receive around counter-fraud and corruption and workforce strategy. And they're currently being finalised as well, and as part of the process. However, when we've looked at our draft opinion, obviously, as you'll be aware, there, and as noted on page 53 of the pack, Gedling Borough Council obviously uncovered a significant fraud alleged during the year. That impacts into our thinking. We're aware of the conversations around that area and some of the reviews and work that's happening in that area as well. Another key consideration for us, obviously, the accounts are not signed off, which is linked to the matter I've just mentioned as well. That's a key source of evidence for us around the accounts being completed, and we work closely with your external audit team to follow and engage what they're doing. There have been some turnover or kind of gaps in elements of senior management. Obviously, that impacts our view of the opinion. And a key bit, which is probably just touching on some of the questions, is follow-up. So we do our reports, but a key function of what we do is to go back in and say, well, you said this date, and has it been done? Now, that's improved in some areas, but actually follow-up is still not quite where we'd want to see it, in that we're going back, and this committee will receive reports on our follow-up at future meetings, where they're not always being completed at that point. Now, business continuity, we probably have more confidence in other areas. We've got areas that recommendations are still outstanding from 2020, 2021, and so obviously that's quite long outstanding. So that factors into our thinking as to our opinion as well. And we did mention that in our previous year opinion, to say if we're still in this position a year's time, we're more likely to verge onto a limited, and that's fed into our view. Having said everything I've just said, this is a draft. Once some of those elements I've just talked about, including our 2 outstanding reports, have been published, and we know further on external audit and other elements, we will come back to this committee with our final. At this position, it's limited. I probably expect that's where it would be even once we have finalised, but it is just to reiterate that it is a draft at this point. And so happy to take any questions, but that's the function and purpose of this report, and that's some of the reasons as to why at a draft stage we've reached limited.
Thank you for that. Have we got any comments or questions from members? Councillor Creamer.
Yeah, just a very quick one. On page 7, the limited assurance, there's a new health and safety officer being appointed, and that should actually bring the BCP back by the end of July. Is that actually on track? That's all. It's near the end, not far away. So is that actually on track?
Yeah.
We're looking who to answer it. We have got a new health and safety manager and a new health and safety officer as well. So we did a kind of reboot of health and safety as an internal function, and those positions were both filled in October of last year. There's a lot of work to be done. I think it's fair to say that for the years prior to that, we had one officer in post, and their main function for a significant period of time was responding to COVID, because that's the only resource that we had for emergency planning and health and safety. There's actually an annual report coming forward in relation to the work that the health and safety officer has done, and that will be coming forward to JCSE in August. So it will be a bit of an update to see the work that has been undertaken since the officers have been in post. There's a way to go, but I think things are improving. There has been a lot of steps and a lot of pieces of work that have been done, particularly with the higher risk areas, where there's more at-risk functions, including PASC and waste, where there's sort of higher risk levels of activity. So a lot of work being undertaken, a lot of improvements to be made. I'm hopeful that the risk level will be able to increase. In terms of where we are at the end of this quarter, it's sitting where it was, but we're hoping for improvement, certainly in the next quarter.
Thank you for that. Councillor Greensmith.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding the internal audit report, or the draft internal audit report, are you saying, I'm just a little unclear, are you saying that you've got to wait until the accounts are signed off before you can sign off this internal audit report? Because I appreciate that the accounts audit report, if I can call it that, is delayed because of the ongoing issues that we're all aware of. I appreciate we can't talk about them in this chamber at the current time. Or are you able, once all the reports have come to committee, are you then able to give us assurance, whatever that might be?
Yeah, so when we, so the simple answer is we can give an opinion before external audit have signed off, if they don't sign off the accounts, because we're aware of obviously the particular instance, the elements that are around that, and this committee in future is likely to be updated on any further information around that. So we can give the opinion before they sign off, because obviously we don't want to delay unnecessarily. So I think once we've finished and signed off our 2 reports that are outstanding, continue to engage with external audit and get a current position from them, I think we are likely to conclude our opinion at that stage prior to them signing off. We may have a caveat within our report which says this is now final, but based on our conversations and early conclusions from discussions with your external audit team, this is our opinion. So I believe the answer will be yes. I just can't say that categorically until we finished our work and we re-engage with external audit to see where they're up to. Obviously other things could be brought to our attention, or they may say, well, actually we've got something here we need to look into. It's going to take us this period of time, and we think that's a material matter that we want to understand and know before we conclude. We will come back to that point. But I would like to think for the next committee you are going to receive the final opinion from us. Yeah, that's correct. I expect that's where we would be, is that for September we'd have a final.
I noted that I think there's 3 outstanding reports, main finance systems, counter fraud and corruption, and workforce strategy. Are we likely to receive those reports in September?
Workforce strategy, yes. I've reviewed a draft and I have a closing meeting with management tomorrow just to confirm the outcome of that, and so I expect that to be final in the next couple of weeks. Probably less confident on the other 2, but we may still be able to form a final opinion if one of them is outstanding, because we would just maybe, like I said, I don't necessarily expect the limited to change, and even with one report outstanding, we can probably conclude and say, look, this is our final, even if that's not there, because we're confident of that opinion irrespective of the outcome of that particular review. So I think in September we should have a concrete position, but I would leave a slight window open, just obviously until we speak to external audit colleagues and just see whether these are finalised. But I expect that would come with a final position for September.
I'm just conscious of the fact that there seems to be quite a few that are due in September per the plans that you've got, and these are late in coming to this committee meeting. I just don't want to be kept, and I'm sure other councillors or be of a similar opinion, they keep coming back just to receive these sort of reports.
I would just add, so I think I can say this in the context of this committee. Workforce, as I mentioned, we expect to be finalised in the next week. The other two, just from the titles of them, you could see how they may be linked to the wider issue that you kind of alluded to earlier on. That's part of the reason for the delay. And so, because they're linked, you can, from reading the titles, and understand why they may be linked. And so, this isn't because either we don't have the capacity or management are not engaging necessarily with these reviews. It's just that there is obviously a significant piece here that's happening at the same time, which is impacting the timeliness of these. So that's the only reason why. And obviously, the next few weeks, that might be a bit clearer. So, like I said, I'd hope that we'd be there in September. I feel more confident than not that we would be there. But if we're not, obviously, we will report whatever the latest position is at that point.
Yeah, I'm skirting around the issue like you are as to where we are on these, and I fully understand now. Thank you.
Tina, did you want to come in?
Yeah, just to say, I have spoken to the external auditors today, and I have got a bit of an update. They are expecting to come out in September to audit the 2021-22 statements. We have got a number of amendments that we need to make to those statements prior to them coming out, but I think it's 3 weeks, starting from the second week of September, they're expected to come out. So.
Yeah, okay.
That's really useful, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments on this item from members? No? Okay, then I will move the recommendations. Item recommendation 1, have I got any seconders? It's members to note the draft internal audit annual report and head of internal audit opinion for 22-23. Yep, Councillor Greensmith second. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Just to say, in regards to item 6, I haven't got any other items which are considered urgent. Just to thank the representatives from BDO for coming along this evening and presenting, and also to the officers for attending this evening and answering comments and questions. And that is the end of the meeting. So thank you very much, members and ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.